Hi everyone, I'm Jodi. Welcome to my channel. I'm really glad that you're here today, and welcome to this week's Friday Face Off, where we are going to put two luxury foundations through a variety of applications and wear tests, which I will timestamp just below in case you want to get to those specific days. But I will warn you that there's some really good beauty tips along the way that you may not want to miss out on. If you have not seen any of the other Friday Face Offs, we saw a waterproof mascara in the luxury category go up against the drugstore, and the drugstore did perform better under the series of tests. Last week we took a luxury foundation up against a drugstore foundation, and in my experience those two foundations performed almost exactly the same, not one better than the other. This week we are going to put the $150 Tom Ford up against the $130 Cle de Peau. Now, a few stats you're going to want to know before we get into the face-off. Tom Ford, as you know, is owned by the Estee Lauder companies. This is $150 for 1 ounce. It comes in 40 shades and has an SPF of 50. It is medium to full coverage with a radiant, nourishing finish. It does have skincare in it, including hyaluronic acid. Cle de Peau, owned by the Shiseido company, is $130 for 1.1 ounce and comes in 24 shades and is an SPF of 25. And it is a lightweight to medium but buildable coverage with a natural luminous finish. So we're going to put these side by side. As we put them on, we're going to have day one with no primer and a damp beauty sponge. Day two, we're going to put it on with a primer underneath. And day three, we are going to use no primer, but a setting powder. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I also wanted to let you know that we decided to change up the program a little bit and do a wear test with glasses, and that's on day three, so don't want you to miss it. All right, continue on. A few things to know. You can put on any foundation with your fingers if you would like to, which just gives you a little heavier coverage. You can also use a kabuki brush or a regular butt brush and buff them out, and that gives you a little more coverage. Using a damp beauty sponge typically gives you a more sheared out coverage, and I find that in some cases it just adds a more smoothed out look. We're also going to put a concealer on top of this, and you'll want to make sure that you use the right concealer, one that is water, because these are both water-based formulas, which we will go into a deeper dive of the ingredients in both of these as we go through the application for day one. We'll also put a transfer test on to see if any of these are going to transfer. And at the very end, we are going to do a flashback test. Now, the reason we want to do that flashback is because both of these contain a sunscreen, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Both are known to give flashback. If you have a foundation that you absolutely love and you want to have sunscreen in that foundation, which I would advise, then just do a little bit of setting spray to help with that flashback. But do these give flashback? I don't know. We're going to test that on day three. And if you are liking these Friday face-offs, I would love for you to subscribe. Leave me a comment that you do like them so that I know this is content that you're enjoying. And please feel free to share these with any of your friends that might be on the hunt for a good product or just want some 20 minutes of some fun product reviews. So if you're ready, let's get started. All right, so just like last time, we're gonna do some underpainting or some undersculpting just because I wanna see how this wears with some product underneath it. I already have on my moisturizer. And then my sunscreen. These are the standard that I always use. No matter what the marketing material says for a foundation, it will only reach its full potential if the skin underneath it is moist, plump, and dewy to start with. So you can see I have a little bit of a glow. That's from the combination of my moisturizer and my sunscreen, which I'll link below if you're interested. But I also want to see how it wears with some product underneath it for those of us that like to undersculpt. And obviously these products aren't on my whole face, so it will give us a chance to see how these foundations wear over a more creamy formula as well as on top of the skin with nothing underneath it. So we're just gonna go a little bit here, and then we will add a little bit of cream blush. I'm gonna use the same Cle de Peau that I used last week just because it worked and I like it, and I have not got another cream one since I chucked that NARS one in the garbage. So we're just gonna put a little bit of cream blush on. This is such a pretty blush, it would probably look just as good on the outside. So for those of you that might have just skipped to this part in the timestamp, you are probably going, what in the heck is that? And it's face painting. It's where we let our creative outlet out. For those of us that were not good in art school, we decided to practice our art on our face. And good thing is, if these foundations do what they say, then it will cover up any mistakes for which we will have made. In terms of this Tom Ford foundation, it says to give it a good shake. And I just want to give you guys a quick review of what the marketing material says about this so that we can compare it and see if it really does. The foundation features a blend of advanced elastomers and light diffusing powders to create a perfect radiant surface to reflect soft light. It also says it is designed to create the appearance of flawless skin. It also nourishes the skin with breathable protection because it is infused with hyaluronic acid that helps to moisturize the skin for a plump, dewy look. Okay, so we're going for plump, dewy, light reflecting. I like it. We're just gonna go with a 1.5 pump. I'm gonna apply it with this damp beauty sponge, and we are just gonna kind of dab it and see how well it covers. So you can see where I've already got some redness, well, a lot of redness with that blush and that contour. And we're gonna see, and we're gonna take it up pretty close to the eye, but we will put a concealer on top of it. And you can see that just by pouncing that, it is pretty good coverage. It's important to note that when you hear a foundation is not a tinted moisturizer, but it's a medium to full coverage, what that means is that it has more pigment in it than a tinted moisturizer. So these should cover about the same. They're very similar in their ingredients list, and we're going to take a look at that here in just a second because there are some interesting things to note there. But it covers very nicely. This is a good color for me. This is 5.7. It's not spotty or anything like that. It does look like it's got a very soft, natural glow. It doesn't look, it's not matte, obviously. I mean, it does look like skin, just better, which is nice. I don't see a lot of pores sticking out. I'm gonna put it on my nose with my finger just because reaching it on my nose with this big sponge, no matter what side I use, was a little challenging last week. So I thought there's gotta be a better way. And I know many of you like to put your makeup on with your fingers, which is completely fine. You'll just get more coverage with your finger than you will with a damp beauty sponge. And with that, you get probably better blendability because of the warmth of your skin, and the warmth of your finger helps mold and melt, if you will, that foundation. Now I know many of you like the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, so I was gonna use that as a concealer. However, this is an oil-based concealer, and both of these foundations are water-based. So we don't wanna mix those two formulas, oil and water, so this will not work with this application. The Tarte Creaseless Concealer, every shade of this is out on the Ulta website. So I'm not gonna use this just because I don't know if it's gonna be reformulated, and you couldn't get it right now if you wanted to anyway, so I just don't wanna talk about that one. So I'm gonna use the e.l.f. 16-Hour Wear. It is a water-based concealer, which I love because we're gonna put a $7 concealer on top of a $150 foundation, and I bet it looks just fine. So we will see how this wears. I am a little more purpley today. I don't know why. And while I blend this in, I want to talk a little bit about the ingredients in the Tom Ford. The first ingredient is water, the second ingredient is dimethicone, and the third ingredient is phenyltrimethicone. Now, in terms of active ingredients, one of the active ingredients at 3.3% is zinc oxide. On EWG's website, the sunscreen grade of the zinc oxide that is in this formulation rates a 3 to 9, 1 being best, 10 being worst, and this rates a 3 to 9 depending on the usage. It scores low in a common concern of cancer. It scores moderate in a common concern of allergies. It scores low in developmental and reproductive toxicity, and scores a moderate in use restrictions. The Skin Deep analysis on EWG goes on to say that some of the other concerns are enhanced skin absorption, use restrictions, which they've listed as moderate, biomechanical or cellular level changes they rate as a high. The first three ingredients rated a 1. It was this zinc oxide or the addition of that sunscreen that rates it in that higher category. So just know that, and we will find similar results when we go over to the Cle de Peau. Now that the application's on, I would say it definitely has a light diffusing look to it. The skin does look brighter if you compare it to the other side. It doesn't look cakey, it doesn't look heavy. It looks like my skin. It looks like there's some light reflecting to it. I do want to put just a little bit of blush on the outside of it, just because that's how we would normally wear it. And let's just grab a light little blush. I have more medium tones on today, which is my non-favorite of tones to wear. So I'm just gonna try to wear a little bit of a more of a neutral tone blush so that I don't feel quite so warm and fall today. I don't know why I chose this shirt because it says fall. It doesn't say we're done with winter and let's go into spring, but that's okay. So here's a close-up, and then once we do the Cle de Peau, we'll do another close-up. This Cle de Peau side I'm equally as excited about because I love Cle de Peau's cream foundation. This is one of my favorites. This is a holy grail. At my bonus daughter's wedding, I wore this because I knew there'd be pictures. I wanted flawless skin for a long time, and this is one of my go-tos for that. So let's give this a good shake. The other thing from Cle de Peau that I love, so I mean, their cream foundation is great, and their concealer is mwah. These two together, you look like you should be on the cover of Vogue. I love these two together. They are pricey, and I wear it like it's the fine china that I break out of the buffet once a year because I just don't ever want to be without it. So we're just gonna give this a good shake, just like the Tom Ford, and we'll do the same 1.5 pumps, so it's the same amount. The description on the Cle de Peau one, you guys, I had to laugh when I was reading it out loud to myself this morning. It said, a lightweight foundation infused with ultra hydrating skincare ingredients for a luminous bare skin-like finish and light to medium buildable coverage. Enriched with moisturizing ingredients including hyaluronic acid for 12-hour hydration and exceptional all-day wear to visibly enhance your skin's natural beauty for a radiant finish. Diminishes dullness and roughness after 2 weeks while providing comfortable 24-hour wear that resists creasing and cakiness. Like the mind, skin is smart. Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural SPF 25 leverages skin intelligence to support your skin's maximum ability to restore and protect itself. This product helps you respond to the good, in parentheses, nutrients, sleep, and moisture, and bad, in parentheses, pollution, stress, dryness, for your best skin. So I love that. I just thought that was a very creative way to market it, that like your mind, your skin is smart. I don't know that you could argue that that's not true. I don't know, but it was just very creative marketing, I thought. And that this foundation leveraged the skin's intelligence to help protect itself. Some of the negative reviews on the Cle de Peau foundation stated that the formula has recently changed, and with that change came a less number of warm tone or yellow tone shades. And Shiseido did respond to a few of those comments and stated that they are continuing to develop additional shades that will more meet the warm tones. So we'll see how that comes out, but the negative comments were really since the change of the two formulas, not unlike the YSL, same type of a thing. Now YSL is owned by L'Oreal, and Cle de Peau is owned by Shiseido, and as I said, Tom Ford is owned by Estee Lauder. Okay, so the coverage is definitely a little bit different, I would say. I am gonna build this a little bit because this is a lightweight to medium, this is medium to full, and you can see that just in the one application between the two sides. This isn't quite as, this is more of a natural, this almost looks a little bit more like a tinted moisturizer. It's beautiful, it's flawless, it's glowing, but it is not the coverage that this side is. So I'm gonna use just a little bit more to build the coverage because it does say on the Cle de Peau side that with building, it does not look cakey even after long wear. That looks a little bit more even to me. I'm gonna add some along the nose just so that we're even, and hopefully I won't leave a line right down the center. So you guys will forgive me if I blend those two just a little bit. The Tom Ford's a little bit darker, which you can't really tell unless I put them side by side down my nose. So we won't do that. All right, I'm pretty happy with both of these. Let's put on our e.l.f. concealer. You know, this is the high-low look, and we've all done that with our clothes. I'm sure you guys have done that as well, where we do a high-low look where you might have, you know, a pair of shoes that are a couple $100 and you've got them on with a Old Navy t-shirt, and that's awesome. Or some jeans that you didn't have to pay much for. That is fashion, I think. Fashion is, you know, mixing and matching. It doesn't all have to be one or the other. All right, and just like the other side, we're gonna set this with a little bit of powder. a little bit of blush. I'm gonna let that sit for a second just so that we can see if there's any oxidation and just see how it wears in the next couple minutes, and then we'll do a close-up before we start our day. I just wanted to go over the ingredients real quick for the Cle de Peau. First three ingredients are very similar. It's water, dimethicone, and glycerin. And when you look at the more active ingredients, because of that sunscreen, the titanium dioxide is 3.3%. This one was the zinc oxide, and Cle de Peau is the titanium dioxide. And when you take a look at the EWG website's Skin Deep for that, the titanium dioxide is a 2.8 on the sunscreen grade, which rates it at a good. And their concerns there are cancer is moderate, allergies is low, development and reproductive toxicity is low, and use restriction is a medium. Or moderate, excuse me. Some of the other concerns that they cite are enhanced skin absorption, use restrictions, which is a moderate. They also say that there's non-productive organ system toxicity is moderate, irritation to skin, eyes, or lungs is low, and occupational hazards rate high, as well as biomechanical or cellular level changes is also a high. So when you put that back in the rating, it's a 2 to 8. Now, I'm not here to tell you if that's good or not good. I'm not here to recommend or not recommend either of these products because of the EWG rating. I just want you to have the information so that you have a broader scope of knowledge of this product. Besides, it's in a beautiful bottle, it's expensive, and it covers well. There's just more to these, and I just want to make sure that you have the information to make the best decision for you and your family. All right, with that being said, I think let's zoom you guys in and see how these look. And we will do a check-in in about the 8-hour mark because they both claim to have longer wear. Now, I thought what was interesting is neither of these stated that they are waterproof or sweat-proof or transfer-proof. But you know me, we cannot go without a transfer-proof test because we're going to put this on and then put a shirt over, and usually something will transfer right around here, or we're gonna wanna hug somebody today and let them know how much they mean to us, and we don't want to leave our face on their shoulder to be reminded of us throughout the rest of their day. So let's do a transfer test. All right, so we are going to cover up the face. We're gonna rub it softly, not aggressive, but not so light that it's not gonna do anything, and we will see how it goes. My lipstick transfers every time, so that is not to be. Here's the Cle de Peau, here's the Tom Ford. I'm gonna hold it back so I felt like just so you can really get a good look. So we will see what $150 and $130 on your face looks like in about 8 hours. All right, so we are in for a 10 hours and 25 minute check-in. And I wanted to go past 8 hours because I figured for $150 or $130 respectfully, I wanted to see, will this last all day long for those of us that work an 8-hour shift? And we all know that work never ends at 8 hours. You've got to commute, you got to come home, you got to stop, you got to get groceries, you got to get doctor, whatever. Life is not revolve around just 8 hours. It's much longer. So let's see what you get for $150, $130, including skincare. I want to make sure that we don't minimize the importance of the skincare and the improvements in your skin from said skincare that both of these products offer. So I don't want to undersell that because that is important, especially as we age. And hyaluronic acid is good for nourishing, moisturizing, as well as stimulating collagen growth. So that being said, let's take a look. The one thing that I noticed, you guys, right off the bat is that it doesn't look shiny at all. And I did do a Pilates workout today as well. That's important to note, and ran some errands. I filmed another video. So a lot went on today, and I think the makeup held up beautifully. It doesn't look shiny at all. It almost looks somewhat matte to me, but in the most beautiful, natural way. I think it is, you can tell that the Cle de Peau side is more of a light to medium coverage, as I said when we applied it. The coverage is still over everything, including my nose, which typically the foundation on my nose has worn off like within an hour or two. I don't see that being the case at all with either of these. The Tom Ford one is still, you can see there's no patchiness. There's no real shine, and I do get oily through my chin and through my nose. Neither of them have settled into fine lines and wrinkles. So in terms of long-lasting, radiant, natural, luminous wear, I would say they both have held up nicely. So my opinion is both of these foundations are gorgeous with no primer, and there is no powder on top of this either, except for right through here where I did the blush. So that blush, and it still looks beautiful as well. So both of these get a big thumbs up for a round 1, no primer application. Hello and welcome to day 2. Today is gonna be all about primers. So let's jump right in. I'm gonna put on a little bit of this cream blush just like we did yesterday. And I'm gonna use a damp beauty sponge for that. We're gonna do our under sculpting, under painting clown face to begin our day. Doesn't this look fantastic? I'm using the Guerlain, and as I said the other day, this is It's actually, I saw it on sale at Nordstrom now for like $55. In terms of primer, I'm gonna use it on my chin where I tend to have more pores show through, and then right around my nose. And then we'll put just a little bit right in this area because I wanna see how these foundations work with a primer. So I wanna go a little bit far enough off of my nose so that we can really get a sense of, does it sort of ball up and get, you know, I don't want to say gummy, but maybe that's the best word. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you've had a bad primer slash foundation day, you know what I am saying. All right, we're gonna give both of these a really good shake. You know, yesterday, I expect these to perform very well. They did yesterday. They were gorgeous all day, throughout the day, and I don't expect today to be any different. I mean, they're beautiful. It's what you would expect for the price point, right? And I know I keep emphasizing how much these cost, and they are expensive, but if you're going to invest in a good foundation that includes skincare and offers skincare throughout the duration of the wear, or at least up to 12 hours as the Cle de Peau indicates, then they seem to be worth it so far. So we're just gonna put all this on with a brush, which is just gonna be a little bit thicker application than we saw with the damp beauty sponge, which I'm anxious to see on the Cle de Peau side because that one did go on a little bit thinner. I'm just gonna go in and buff that out a little bit. I think I like the way the Tom Ford went on with the damp beauty sponge better though. It was faster to put on this Tom Ford with a damp beauty sponge. I think the application looks about the same. It just felt a little bit, it took more time to blend it with the brush. And you guys, while we're talking about expensive things, there's a Cle de Peau, I'm gonna show it to you here. There's a Cle de Peau 40th edition night cream that is on sale for, I should say it's on sale. It is selling for $16,000. So if you love Cle de Peau and you are a collector of all things beauty and you just have an extra 16,000, there you go. You would have a, I would like to say it's a one of a kind. I don't know that it is. I don't know that you'd find everyone on your block has that if you're into that kind of thing. And look, I'm not passing judgment. If you've got the money to do it and you want that in your vanity, or maybe you have a whole makeup room, or maybe you're on YouTube and you want something beautifully displayed where the lights would shine and it would just be sparkly everywhere, then go for it. I was just surprised that a night cream could cost as much as a car. Whole living room set, a really nice vacation, or several of them. The Cle de Peau covers nicely. I think it goes on just as well with the brush as it did with the Damp and Beauty Sponge yesterday. Last, we're just gonna put a little bit of powder. Luckily that worked. Sometimes I don't catch those. I'm just using the Rosy Glow by Dior Backstage. Just gonna put a little bit of powder blush, blah, right on the edge of my cheeks, and I think that is gonna do it. So here's a close-up so you can see how that Tom Ford looks after being applied with a brush on top of a primer. This is a little like marking scar that I have. That's not contour. It didn't really cover that up that well, which I'm kind of surprised because it normally covers everything. It's not as flawless, and this is a red spot that I have on my skin, and if I don't exfoliate that, that is just there. So that's not the Tom Ford. That's just my skin. I mean, it didn't cover it, but I didn't spend a lot of time trying to cover that, quite frankly, because it's back here and no one sees it. Other than that, it looks really pretty. I do think that it looks a little thick through this area, which I don't love, and I'm not sure why that happened. It didn't do that yesterday with the Damp Beauty Sponge or the primer, so I'm curious to see how that wears throughout the course of the day. In terms of the Cle de Peau side, it's also a very natural finish. It doesn't feel heavy on my skin. Neither of them do. I can't really feel that they're there. I would say it has a little bit less coverage, but it went on more smoothly with the brushes and the buffing brush than the Tom Ford. Both look really pretty. I will certainly go throughout the day. I'll be filming today, so when you're watching this on Friday, the video that you saw on Tuesday will be filmed after right now. And of course, I'll be taking you along to see how it holds up. All right, you guys, so we are in at the 11.5-hour mark. I filmed this morning at 8. It is now 7:30 p.m. And can I just say, what is this? What is this about when you can't find any glasses and then somehow they all end up like in the same spot? I've been editing today and I couldn't find a pair of glasses to save my life, and now there's 3 of them. That's pretty much how the day has gone. But let's talk about something more exciting, these foundations and how well they have held up. I am looking at them for the first time with you guys, and it looks like They're both wearing pretty well. Let's start with the Tom Ford side first. It looks a little bit worn. I mean, not bad considering how long it has been on. It hasn't worn or gotten oily right through here, which I'm really impressed with, especially because we did not powder it. It hasn't worn off my nose. It doesn't look like it's fallen into fine lines or wrinkles or accentuated anything. And it still looks like it's covering, you know, everything that we wanted it to cover. The finish is still really nice. I do tend to get a little bit oily through the day, especially on my chin, maybe a little bit right through here. But all in all, for being on for 11 and a half, almost 12 hours, that's pretty darn good wear, really good coverage still, and it's not settling into fine lines and wrinkles. When we look at the Cle de Peau side, it looks to me as though it has worn a little bit, maybe a little bit more than the Tom Ford, but not by much. It hasn't really worn down through here. It looks like this area is still, it doesn't look like an orange peel, which sometimes can happen with foundation. It does look like it's maybe worn a little bit more than the Tom Ford, but it's worn evenly. It doesn't look as though it has worn off in patches. It's not excessively shiny, which I would have expected for a foundation for a luminous finish to be on for 11 hours without setting powder. In the areas where I am oily, I would have expected to see some excessive shine. I don't see any of that, so I'm really happy about that. For those of you that have oily skin, you might really enjoy these because you're not gonna end up the day with just being way too greasy. And if you have dry skin, I think you'd be happy too because you don't need to powder to keep these foundations, either one of them, in place. So my viewpoint is that these are both evenly matched, and I don't know that I can say that either one of them performed much better with a primer. So next up is day 3, where we are going to use a setting powder. All right, here we are on day 3, and a little bit of a change up in the schedule. The makeup has been applied with the damp beauty sponge, just like we did on day 1. This is the Tom Ford side, and this is the Cle de Peau side. But what I decided to do was, because throughout both of the days of wear testing, I did not have any oil breakthrough. My nose did not get shiny around this area where it always does, or on my chin. There was no separation of foundation down on my chin, which does typically happen also. So my thought was, we don't need to powder as women of maturity if we don't have to. And so far, I have not had to. Now, that doesn't mean that this will work for everyone, and those of you that have really oily skin, you may still need to powder. So how do these foundations wear under powder? We're gonna get to that this afternoon. But what I wanted to start with this morning for about 4 hours is I have a lot of editing to do. And with editing, I wear my glasses. And I know many of you wear glasses, whether it's just to read or to drive, or throughout the duration of your day at work or whatever it is you're doing. So I wanted to see how rims will work sitting on my face. Now you can see my glasses do touch from time to time right through here, especially if I'm smiling a lot. And these aren't the actual glasses I'm wearing because these don't have frames, because the lights will reflect back. But these are the glasses I'm wearing, and I won't blind you because of the lighting, but they're the exact same glasses, so they'll fit exactly the same. So we'll check in at the 4-hour mark just to see how $150 or $130 foundations hold up with something sitting on them for the couple hours. And then we'll powder for the remaining 4 to 6 hours of the day, just to see how do these foundations wear with a powder over them, for those of you with more oily skin that may need to wear powder. So with some glasses, I will get to work and see you guys in about 4 hours. Okay, you guys, so it has been 4.5 hours, and I wanted to do a couple things to see how these glasses sit and wear. Now, again, to be fair, neither of these two foundations claim to be transfer proof, but I felt like if you have a $150 product or a $130 foundation, you should know if it transfers or not, because the $11.99 Milani last week didn't transfer. But again, in fairness, they don't claim to be transfer proof. So I just wanted to see what the bottom of the glasses look like, if there's any makeup sitting there. I don't see where the makeup has worn, you know, where the rims sit on either side. So I'm just curious though, and I did not do this in last week's test. I will start doing this more often when we're doing foundations and stuff, so I apologize for those of you that wear glasses. It didn't dawn on me, quite frankly, until laying in bed last night going through this review, trying to think of every different scenario of what I would want a $150 foundation to do. So I'm just gonna wipe across. This is the Cle de Peau side, and there's nothing on there, so that's good. It's not sitting on my cheek and really wearing a bunch of makeup. off of my face. It's staying put. And if we go to this side, this is the Tom Ford. Yeah, nothing. There's nothing on that side either. So that's good. The makeup is staying put on my face, not on my glasses. And again, this was without a primer, no setting powder, and no setting spray. So the next step we want to test is how does it work with powder? But I don't need to do that with this foundation, so I hesitate of messing up the whole foundation look today by adding powder when I don't need it. However, I do understand that many of you have more oily skin and you need to know how this will work with powder, because you may need to powder first thing in the morning, or because this doesn't really allow oil to shine through, you may not need to use nearly as much powder as you have before. You may be able to just do a little bit of touch up throughout the day. Either way, we kind of want to know how it wears. So as always, I'm just going to use a little bit of my translucent powder, take a fluffy tapered brush, and I like the idea of putting it here for a test purpose because there's creases there, there's pores there, there's oil production there, and then there's these nice beautiful wrinkles. So we've got every situation going on in the, tiny square centimeter of the corner of my nose. So we'll get a lot of questions answered in this one little review, and let's see how it goes in about 4 to 5 hours. All right, you guys, this foundation now has been on with a little bit of powder. It's 6:30, that was 11, so for 7.5 hours. So it is holding up really, really well, I would say. Where I did put a little powder around my nose and my chin, it does look like the foundation has settled on both sides. The settling is somewhat minimal, I would have to say. The Cle de Peau side, where we added that extra layer of foundation, I was really curious to see how that was gonna hold up. I've been in and out of stores today. I did some errands. It's about 18 degrees outside. So I've kind of put my makeup through it today. They wear just beautifully, just a subtle glow. They both say that they have a radiant, soft, light glow, and I would say that is 100% true for both sides. They both wear well with primer, without primer, and with powder or without powder. So check, equal on that. It still, both sides looks beautiful. And the Cle de Peau side, where we added that extra layer and built it, it doesn't look cakey, it doesn't look patchy. So I think if you have oily skin and you need to wear a foundation that won't produce a lot of extra shine throughout the day, I think you'd be really, really happy with either one of these. If you have dry skin and you don't want to have to put powder on it for any reason, I think you'd be happy with how well this wears without having to set it, either of them, with a powder. If you have combination skin, you could do just like I did, and you would maybe just need to add a little bit of powder in your T-zone or wherever you get oily. But again, very, very minimal, because I don't see the shine that typically will come through other foundations this late in the day and this kind of wear. So in terms of, is it worth the price? That's gonna have to be an individual decision you're gonna have to make. I would say the skin looks stunning. It looks like skin. They don't feel like foundations, neither one of them. They wear well all day, no patchiness. So if you need a foundation to go the distance of your day, day in and day out, you want a really pretty finish, not matte, not super shiny, they're both beautiful. Part of what you're paying for is the skincare. They both say that they help improve the look of your skin over time. I would have to stop all of my other skincare products to test that. And I love y'all, but I'm just not willing to give up some of my actual skincare to test some foundations. But that being said, I'm sure there is, they have hyaluronic acid in it, which is good to help stimulate the growth of collagen and help hydrate your skin. So that is nice to have in your products as well. So if your budget is $150 or $130, which one would I say came out on top? I would have to say, and this pains me because I'm a huge Tom Ford fan, but I'd have to say the Cle de Peau, because it goes on with a light coverage and you can build it. So you really do get two different types of looks, where the Tom Ford does typically, its first application is a little heavier, a little more thick, a little bit more pigmented. So it's not as easy to get that more tinted moisturizer / sheer look that you may want on some days. where with the Cle de Peau, you can definitely do that or build it up to be a little bit more of a special glam night. Well, we put these two foundations through the ringer, but for $130, $150, you should know what you're getting. So that does it for me, you guys, and this week's episode of Friday Face Off. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so I know this is content that you're interested in, and pass it along to any of your friends that might be on the market for a really good, beautiful luxury foundation. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.